When it comes to gaming mascots, there's a fine line to toe. With a grain of salt, there's a good chance you'll either be adorable and huggable, or incredibly cool and competent. The trends and gray areas of this matter are always something that interests me, and something I've had a lot of fun exploring in past videos, especially regarding the likes of Crash Bandicoot and Devil May Cry's Dante, among others. Sticking out like a sore, decomposing thumb in my personal repertoire is Sir Daniel Fortescue, of the somewhat esoteric but cult-beloved MediEvil games. Sir Dan is arguably not really cute, if not perhaps in a funny, macabre way, but he's certainly not suave or cool either, and that's because he's a rather brilliant deconstruction of this end of the spectrum. Sir Dan's backstory is that of the chiseled likes of Kratos and Geralt of Rivia, a hardened knight who defended his home kingdom from the evil sorcerer Zarok and nobly gave his life in battle. Zarok returns a century later and casts a spell to raise the dead, including Sir Daniel, who resolves to finish the fight they started years ago, and once again courageously vanquish the sorcerer. But it's quickly made apparent that Sir Daniel is held in ill repute among the late warriors in the Hall of Heroes, as well as the creatures of Gallowmere, who confirm that Sir Dan's bravery was a myth and that the knight died in battle while pretending to tie his bootlaces to avoid conflict. True to his clumsy, asymmetrical appearance, there's nothing graceful or sleek about Sir Daniel. Despite being a knight of some esteem in life, his stature was begotten because he was really good at weaving impressive stories, which landed him a cushy place playing croquet with the king instead of training, leading to his demise. As a half-repaired corpse, Sir Daniel has to gain and prove the medal he was faking all along, and one seemingly innocuous choice about his character design in particular really speaks to this. The fact that Sir Daniel's jaw and mouth have rotted away, making him incapable of coherent speech. Daniel achieved the title of heroism through talk in his past life, but with none of his bespoken capability, his only choice is to put his money where his mouth is, or was. This leaves Daniel in a narrative position that's really fascinating, because we get the background that he was an indiscreet, verbose, and just full of it knight. He can't keep it a secret from the ageless creatures and spirits that taunt him. No longer does Daniel have his velvet tongue to rely on, as fellow warriors and heckling gargoyles berate him. All he can do now is grow a spine and lead the charge. This also plays up some of MediEvil's comedic elements, from unshaven pixies to sardonic Scottish dragons. Everything in Gallowmere has a really impressive mouth on it and a highly facetious, taunting manner. And for the first time in his existence, Daniel can't talk back. His only choice is to do what he's avoided doing for so long and actually fight, and it's the only way he can truly redeem himself. Also true to the Sir Daniel experience is how he moves like a clunky skeleton in a suit of armor. And this has gained the game some criticism, as not all find movements like these intuitive or easy to play. But I wouldn't have it any other way, as Daniel wasn't a delicate fighter in life. I don't see how he'd improve as a corpse, and with different and increasingly zany weapons in hand, the process just grows more absurd and cathartic, these weapons gained by talking to your old rivals in the Hall of Heroes. In addition to the colorful personalities and portentous designs on display, this is such a fun indicator of Daniel's progress, starting from Dan being bullied by the statues all the way up to the point of the strongest hero of all, Megwin Stormbinder, expressing genuine concern and kindness to Dan as she bestows him one of the game's strongest weapons, pure power over lightning, toward the end of his adventure. Powered in life, Sir Dan has to test his might against horrifying beings, and be brave in the face of a zombie family, feral inmates, giant insects, you name it. The spooky imagery is pretty intuitive, all things considered, but it was a stroke of brilliance to make the star of such a creepy world like this a noted scaredy cat who has to move past his greatest flaw, that being apprehension and timidity. It's also pretty worthy of note that Sir Dan never stops being a fearful personality. He reacts with anxiety ranging up to horror in the faces of many of the creatures in both games. And as easy as it would be to tone his moments of triumph with unabashed courage, I think it speaks to the character more honestly that he's still seriously terrified of what's going on, and the notion that real bravery isn't the absence of fear, but going through with what you need to despite fear. This theme runs into the sequel, and I feel is followed up upon in an even more personal manner via the introduction of the character Kea. In the second game, which takes place in a more contemporary London where Sir Daniel's body has been preserved in a museum, The story sees the populace awakened by a similar curse as the first game. Kea was also being preserved in said museum. She's an Egyptian princess, which is a choice I find interesting because of the relationship with the dead held by ancient Egyptian culture, and that Egyptians in Kea's era of life were in the school of thought that death was merely a step into a second stage of existence, meaning Daniel has a precise foil in someone who doesn't fear death the way he does. Kea was the final consort of Pharaoh Ramses, and she was fully prepared to follow him into the afterlife, as anyone of this disposition would understand and be prepared to do, which gives a whole new context to the scene where Kea is brutally slain by the reanimated corpse of the legendary murderer Jack the Ripper. What really stands out about this is the fact that it's the first time Sir Dan is fighting for anyone besides his own dignity. He genuinely cares for Kea and turns to time travel to go back and save her from the bloodied clutches of death, not hesitating in the face of one of the most prolific serial killers ever, and striking fast without mercy. Kea, who is intimately familiar with death and likely fully prepared for it, embraces Daniel in gratitude, not because she necessarily feared death, but because she admired his heroic spirit and fell in love with him. There's sort of a beauty to that, how Daniel went from the laughingstock of the afterlife to the inspiration to someone who needed to escape it. Sir Daniel is incredibly uplifting that way, the underdog story of a knight devoid of honor and courage, learning that not even death itself signifies any deadline to be a true hero. He isn't a story about turning your brow straight and becoming the best warrior. It's about how courage fuels a will to live before it fuels a will to fight, and that's more the first step. That's how you stay brave as long as blood runs through your veins. Poor choice of words. And keep fighting for what's right.